The Imperial warship cut through the void like a blade of vengeance. Every corridor thrummed with the fury of its commander, and every crew member knew to stay clear of the Queen's path. Her 4 arms trembled with barely contained wrath as she stalked toward the detention level, her crystalline carapace reflecting the harsh red emergency lights that bathed the ship. 2 of her sons were missing. 2 hatchlings, barely 3 cycles old, had vanished from the secured nursery during the night cycle. The Queen had torn apart half the ship searching for them, her maternal instincts overriding her usual cold calculation. She had executed wars with less emotion as she now felt coursing through her triple-chambered heart. The human prisoner was the obvious culprit. The creature had been captured during a raid on a frontier colony, one of the stubborn settlements that refused to acknowledge the Dominion's rightful claim to the sector. Humans were known for their treachery, their unpredictable violence, their absolute refusal to submit to any authority but their own. The species had been at war with the Dominion for 7 planetary rotations, and neither side had managed to gain a decisive advantage. This particular human called himself Marcus, and he had killed 3 of her finest warriors before being subdued. The interrogators had gotten nothing from him except silence and that infuriating expression humans made with their mouths when they found something amusing. The Queen had ordered him kept alive only because High Command wanted to study human combat psychology. That decision now felt like the greatest mistake of her reign. If the human had harmed her children, she would personally tear him apart, molecule by molecule, regardless of what High Command wanted. She would make his death last for days. She would make an example that would echo across every human world in known space. The detention level doors hissed open. The Queen's personal guard flanked her, their weapons charged and ready. The corridor was silent, except for the hum of the ship's engines and the clicking of her clawed feet against the metal floor. She could smell the human from here, that strange scent of warm flesh and chemicals that all their kind carried. The guard at the human cell looked terrified. His neck plates flared in submission. Good, he should be afraid. Someone would pay for this security failure. "Open it," the Queen commanded, her voice resonating through the translator band on her throat dot. The guard complied immediately. The energy field dissolved, and the Queen stepped through into the cell, her guards forming a semicircle behind her. Weapons trained on the human. What she saw made her freeze in confusion, rather than attack. The human sat on the floor with his back against the wall. He was not bound because the interrogators had determined he was more cooperative when given the illusion of freedom. His clothes were torn and stained from his capture, his face marked with healing bruises. But none of that mattered compared to what rested on his chest. Her 2 sons were curled against the human, their small bodies rising and falling with deep, peaceful breaths. Their crystalline carapaces, still soft and translucent with youth, caught the light as they slept. One had his tiny clawed hand wrapped around the human's finger. The other made a small chirping sound in his sleep, the kind hatchlings made when they felt safe and warm. The human's own hand rested gently on the back of one son, fingers spread in an unmistakably protective gesture. His eyes were closed, his breathing slow and even. He was asleep as well. The Queen's mind struggled to process this. Her rage faltered, stumbling over the impossible image before her. Her sons should be terrified of this creature. All young of the Dominion species were taught to fear humans from the moment they hatched. Humans were killers, destroyers, the monsters that lurked in the darkness between stars. Yet here they slept, peaceful as if nestled against their own mother. "Explain this," the Queen hissed at her guards. The nearest guard, braver than the others, spoke carefully. "My Queen, the hatchlings were found missing approximately 4 standard hours ago. We searched all secure areas before considering the detention level. When we arrived here, we found this. The human has not moved. The hatchlings appear unharmed." The Queen took a step closer. Her sons did indeed appear unharmed. More than that, they looked content in a way she rarely saw even in the nursery. Hatchlings of her species were notoriously difficult to settle, their predatory instincts making them restless and aggressive even in sleep. The human's eyes opened. He did not startle or reach for a weapon. Instead, he looked at the queen with an expression she could not read, then glanced down at the sleeping hatchlings on his chest. Very slowly, he raised a finger to his lips in the human gesture for silence. The audacity of it nearly reignited her fury. This creature, this prisoner, dared to command her silence in her own presence? But the human was already speaking in a low whisper, his voice barely audible. "They were crying," he said simply. "Came right through the wall vent about 3 hours ago. Scared and alone. What was I supposed to do? Let them cry?" The queen's translator rendered his words, but the meaning seemed impossible. Hatchlings of her species did not cry. They screeched in rage when disturbed. They clicked in hunger, but they did not cry. Except, she realized with a cold shock, sometimes they did. In the deep night cycles, when they thought no one was listening, sometimes the youngest ones did make sounds that could be called crying. She had heard her own sons make such sounds when they thought she was too far away to notice. "They are predators," the queen said, keeping her voice low despite herself. "They should have attacked you." The human looked down at the sleeping hatchlings again, and something in his expression softened. "They're babies," he said. "Just babies who got scared and lost. Species doesn't matter when you're that young and that afraid." One of her sons stirred, making a small, distressed sound. Without thinking, the human adjusted his position slightly, his hand moving in small circles on the hatchling's back. The same soothing gesture the queen herself used in the nursery. The hatchling settled immediately, burrowing closer against the human's warmth. "How did they even reach you?" the queen demanded. "The nursery is 3 decks above this level. Ventilation system," the human replied. "I heard scratching and then crying. Found them stuck in the grating. They couldn't get back up and couldn't go forward. Took me 20 minutes to get the grating open without scaring them worse." The queen looked at the wall vent. It was indeed open, the grating carefully placed to the side rather than torn away. A human with this one's strength could have ripped it free in seconds. Instead, he had taken time to avoid frightening her children further. "You could have used them as hostages," she said. "You could have bargained for your freedom." The human met her gaze directly, something most of her subjects never dared to do. "Yeah," he said, "I could have. But I'm not going to use scared kids as shields, no matter what species they are. That's not who we are. You have killed my warriors without hesitation. In battle, yeah. That's different. Those were soldiers who made their choice. These are children who just wanted their mother." The queen felt something crack in her chest, some barrier she had maintained for years between herself as a military commander and herself as a mother. This human, this enemy, understood something that many of her own advisors never grasped. Her children were not just future warriors or political tools. They were children who needed comfort and safety. She gestured to her guards. "Lower your weapons." They obeyed instantly. Though confusion rippled through their postures. Very carefully, the queen approached. She knelt on the floor beside the human, her movements slow to avoid startling her sleeping sons. Up close, she could see the exhaustion in the human's face, the way his eyes fought to stay open. He had clearly been awake for hours, keeping watch over her children. "They will wake soon," the queen said quietly. "They will be hungry." "Figured you'd be here before then," the human replied. "Knew you'd tear the ship apart looking for them. Yet you did not call for the guards. You did not attempt to return them." The human glanced at the open cell door, then back at her. "The door's been unlocked for 2 hours. Your guard unlocked it when he found us, panicked, and ran to get you. I could have walked out any time, but moving would have woken them, and they needed the sleep. They were exhausted from crying. The queen reached out slowly, and the human did not pull away as she gently touched one son's carapace. The hatchling was warm, his breathing steady, completely unharmed. Her other hand moved to her second son, checking him with the same careful thoroughness. Also healthy, also peaceful. "You are an enemy of my people," the queen said, her voice carrying confusion rather than accusation now. Yeah, the human agreed. War's war. But kids are kids. That's universal, I think. At least, I hope it is. One of her sons began to wake, his crystalline eyes opening slowly. He looked up at the human's face first, then noticed his mother. For a moment, the hatchling seemed confused about whether he should be afraid. Then he made a happy chirping sound and reached for the queen with his small arms. She lifted him carefully, cradling him against her chest. The hatchling immediately began chattering in the quick, high-pitched language of the very young, telling her a story she could barely follow about darkness and fear, and the strange, soft creature that made everything better. The second son woke as well, and the human Ka